The snow-capped mountains gleamed in the low light of the setting sun. Tires crunched over the ice-crusted roads leading up the mountain, where in the distance a 2-story lodge loomed. In the back seat, I shrugged into my parka, both dreading and anticipating the sight of the old building once again. A wave of dread washed over me as I struggled to remember the last time I'd been there. Had it really been 3 years? And why? Why had I not come back in such a long time? Guilt competed with dread, fighting for the lead position in my body. As the car rounded the bend and the pillared covered porch snapped into view, memories flooded my body. But this time, Gramps would not be on the porch awaiting my arrival. As the car came to a rest, a majestic bald eagle soared over the treetops, screeching, a stark contrast to the gray clouds. I struggled to contain my emotions, fighting the tears that threatened to overcome me. As the driver collected her bags from the trunk, I stepped out into the frigid air, my breath puffing little clouds. My gaze followed the stone columns that supported the awning, protecting the little tables and chairs from snow and rain. Signs of disrepair were evident. The elegant stone columns were crumbling in places. Several deckboards buckled with rot. The awning sagged from the weight of snow. Even the tables and chairs could use some love. It was upsetting. My heart wrenched as memories of my childhood played in my mind like a beloved classic film. Pigtails bouncing as I ran down the steps, chasing the ptarmigan in the yard, following Gramps as he greeted guests, fixed squeaky hinges, and consulted with the staff. Sitting on the fluffy rug in front of a roaring fire in the lobby, listening as Aunt Lois read story after story. "Shall I carry your bags inside, miss?" the driver asked. Terrified that the aging gentleman's foot would break through a rotten board and break a fragile bone, I rushed forward and claimed my luggage. "I can handle it from here," I said as I shoved cash at him. "Thank you so much." Nodding, he tucked the money into his pocket and returned to the car. Gripping the bag handles, I trudged forward. Mounting the steps with caution, my eyes caught subtle signs of neglect. Cobwebs in the corners of the grand doors, muddy doormat, foggy windows. The doors stuck, but with a good tug, they flew open, a gust of wind following me inside. The lobby was exactly the same as the last time I'd visited, including a roaring fire in the huge stone fireplace. The rug was threadbare, and the handsome mahogany check-in desk needed some polishing. The hardwood floors were scuffed and dull. How long had Gramps been ill? Had he been hiding his maladies each time we spoke? He'd always refused video calls, claiming technology confused him. "Mila!" I turned to see Aunt Lois scuttling from the dining room, her arms outstretched, her salt and pepper hair a crazy mop. Dropping my bags, I returned her embrace, sinking into her and sucking in all the love she freely gave. "How are you?" I asked as she squeezed me to her ample breast. "Oh, getting along," she said, releasing me. A sad smile graced her lovely face. "How are you?" "Shocked," I said. "What happened?" "Let's get you settled first," she skecked. "We'll have some coffee and talk about things later." There was no arguing with her. My entire life, she had been a force to be reckoned with, although she did it gently and with the greatest of love. She ushered me behind the massive desk and through the office door. It was an organized mess, like always. Pushing through another door, we entered Gramps' living space. When my grandfather's grandfather had built the original hotel, he included this family living area. It was cozy, to put it nicely, with 2 bedrooms, a tiny bath, and a small living room/eat-in kitchen combo. The smaller of the bedrooms had been mine. I opened the door to find my twin bed, dresser, and nightstand frozen in time. Gone were the teenage-inspired posters, and the stuffed animals no longer rested on the bed. "You can stay here if it won't upset you," Aunt Lois said. "I put fresh sheets on the bed and dusted yesterday." "It's fine," I said as I dropped my bags and shed my coat. "Maybe I'll freshen up a bit and change into something comfortable. I can meet you in the kitchen in a few minutes." Nodding, she slipped out of the room. Slowly sliding to the bed, clutching my coat to my chest, I surveyed the room. Not much had changed at all, except the removal of the angsty teenage posters. The sagging bookshelf Gramps had made still stood against the wall. Several of my favorite books still resided there. Smiling, I squinted. reading some of the spines, remembering the evenings I'd lie in bed, escaping to other worlds. With a grunt and a sigh, I got to my feet, rooted through my bags, and crossed the hall to the bathroom to clean up. The scent of strong coffee slapped me as I entered the vast kitchen. It, too, could use some elbow grease and kindness. Aunt Lois stood at the stainless steel prep table, chatting with a 40-ish woman wearing a soiled apron. "Mila," Aunt Lois said. "Do you remember Grissy?" Griselda had joined the team right before I left for college. She'd aged since then, but that spark in her brown eyes hadn't faded. "Of course," I said, shaking Grissy's pruned hand. "How are you?" "Doing what I must," she said with a nod, her eyes filled with unshed tears. "We all loved your grandfather so much, although he is home now with our father." "Yes, I believe he is," I said, releasing her hand. "Please let us know if we can do anything for you." "No, Miss Mila," she said with an adamant shake of the head. "We are all here for you. You were the apple of his eye. He loved his little girl." For the first time since I'd heard the news, grief knotted my stomach and gripped my heart. I fought it as hard as I could. I needed to get things done. There would be time to grieve later. Gramps would expect it. "Thank you," I said, having no idea what else to say. Aunt Lois grabbed 2 steaming mugs and pushed her way through the double doors to the empty dining room. She settled at a table close to the kitchen. She slid a mug across the table at me. Blowing across her cup, she took a sip. "We currently have one guest. He's here on some kind of business. We haven't been taking any reservations for the time being. Thought it best to focus on Archie. Maybe once we finalize plans, we can reopen reservations." Wrapping my hands around the mug, I nodded into its depths. Planning wouldn't be difficult. That's what I did every day. It was the after that I worried about. "Archie had it all planned," she continued. "His lawyer dropped off his final wishes yesterday." I grunted a laugh. Gramps was already prepared. That statement hit me as I glanced around the shabby dining room. Sure, he'd planned for everything, except for his slow demise. It didn't seem as though he'd planned for anyone to take care of the lodge during his declining health. "So, what do I need to do?" I asked. "Not much," she shrugged. "The lawyer already contacted the funeral home. We'll have a dinner here after the services. I guess if you want flowers, we can order them. The funeral will be the day after tomorrow, and it will be simple." "The day before Thanksgiving," I said. She nodded. "Yeah, well, Archie planned everything except the day he would die." I took a long drink of coffee, the warmth welcome in my chilly bones. The ancient furnace clunked and clanged and did the best it could, but the dining room was still chilly. I guess I'll get online to order flowers. I'll probably have to pay extra to get them here in time. "There's a new flower shop in town," Aunt Lois said. "It opened a few years ago." "Really?" I said, incredulous. I couldn't imagine a flower shop in a tiny Alaskan town. "It does quite well," she said, "especially with the new hotel and all." The new hotel. I'd heard a bit about it during the infrequent communication times I'd had with Gramps and Aunt Lois. Brand spanking new and very modern. Not to mention it was in town and not on a mountain. Very convenient for tourists. Not convenient for Gramps. "Is there anything that needs to be done around here?" I asked. "No," Aunt Lois said. "Not right now." Once again, I gazed around this shabby, neglected dining room. Aunt Lois caught my gaze and gave me a shrug. "Yes, the lodge needs some attention. I know. We can discuss that after the funeral." I didn't say a word, just nodded as I sipped my coffee. I decided to wait until after the will was read, and then I'd have a long conversation with Aunt Lois. "I guess I'll just run into town," I said. "I'll go check out that new flower shop. Do you want to go with me?" "No," she said. "I picked flowers out already from me and the staff. I have a few things to do around here, unless you need me to go with you." "I think I can manage," I said. "But I do need a vehicle." "You can use Archie's Jeep," Aunt Lois said. "I'll get you the keys." At least the Jeep was still in good health, I thought as I climbed inside and turned the key. It fired right up as I huddled over the steering wheel, coaxing the heat to blow hot. As I drove down the mountain, I recalled the many similar trips I'd taken in the past. As a child, it was always an adventure. I loved shopping for supplies with Gramps. He'd made it fun, splitting the list with me and making it a game to see who could finish first. We'd check out and then hit the little diner on the bay for fish or chicken sandwiches. Tears misted my eyes as I turned onto the main road. So many changes in just a few years. New shops opened as old shops had closed their doors for good. Going around the curve, I spotted the new hotel, shimmering in the few rays of light that squeezed through the clouds. Possibly 4 stories? On a whim, I whipped into the parking lot to check it out. Slowly, I drove up to the front. Big sliding doors opened to a huge lobby, an attached pub, signs announcing boat tours and fishing charters. Disgusted, I left the lot and hurried toward town. Main Street consisted of the grocery store, the hardware store, and a few restaurants. Turning down a side street, I eased through the snowy roads until I found the sharp new building with colorful bouquets in the window. Parking in front of the shop, I entered, happy that I didn't have allergies. Pollen and sweet lilac assaulted my nose. It was an adorable little store, clean and organized. A desk sat right in the middle of displays and shelves of flowers and plants. "Hello," said a tall woman with rectangular glasses perched on her nose. "Can I help you with something?" "Yes," I said, clearing my throat. "I need to order flowers for my grandfather's funeral." She paused, removing her glasses. "Mila Belle?" "Yes," I said, brow furrowed. "I don't mean to be rude, but do I know you?" She laughed as she walked around the counter. "Oh, I don't know if you remember me. Doris Shanklin." My mind ran through the Rolodex in my head. The name was familiar, but that was about it. "Yasmin Eisen is my daughter," she said. "Her father and I divorced years ago, and I remarried." "Yasmin," I said. "Of course. How is she? I haven't seen her in years." "She's doing well," Doris said. "She's still in town. She works for Grady doing tours on the boat." Grady. Ugh. I didn't even want to think about him, and he was still around. Just wonderful. "I'd love to see her," I said, pushing thoughts of Grady away. "She's going to the funeral," Doris said, her tone soft. "I'm so sorry about your grandfather. He was a wonderful man." "Yes," I said. "He certainly was. Well, let's get something special picked out for him." She turned businesslike, although she kept her soft tone. She helped me pick out a beautiful casket spread with white roses and an assortment of greenery. As we finalized the transaction, the little bell above the door jingled. We both looked, and for a second, I was afraid that Grady had somehow heard his name mentioned and had shown up. Kind of like that movie, but we'd only said his name once. It wasn't Grady, but it was nearly as bad. Leora strutted through the door, her platinum hair piled in a tight little bun and her blue eyes bright beneath the thick lashes. She'd always made me feel grubby in her presence, but my current outfit of leggings, oversized sweater, and old boots didn't help. "Hello, Doris," Leora said. She stopped and sucked in a breath, her hand covering her mouth. "Oh my goodness, Mila Belle!" She scooped me into her arms, squishing me to her chest. "Oh, Mila, it's so good to see you," she said, finally releasing me. She stepped back to look me over. I pushed back an errant curl that had escaped my ponytail. "I'm so sorry about Archie. It's so horrible." "Thanks," I said. "It's good to see you, too. I have to get going, though. I have lots to do." "Sure," she said. "Let's catch up. We can do lunch this week. Here's my number." She handed me a card that I shoved into my coat pocket. "Absolutely. I'll do that." I rushed out of the store and hopped into the Jeep. Cranking the engine, I flipped my hood over my head, hoping to keep anyone else from recognizing me. I couldn't deal with any more reunions at the moment. I just wanted to take care of Gramps and figure out what to do with Lois and the lodge. Everything else was secondary.